Hello. How's everybody doing? Welcome. Thursday Night Live. Hope you had a good Thursday. Well, if you're just joining, I put a post earlier today that was talking about loss, dealing with loss, but not necessarily dealing with a death. Hello, Coco. How are you? Good to see you. Not necessarily dealing with death, more like any other kind of loss. Hello, Moni. So let me read you the post really quick. Let's see. Un beso. So I put the definition of loss based, like if you look it up in the dictionary. And so loss is defined as the fact or process of losing something or someone. Then there's another one that says the state of feeling of grief when deprived of someone or something of value. So the post basically said dealing with loss includes other major things in our lives. This is not just death. So what has been a major loss for you other than a death, and how did you cope with it? And so I had my friend, Christy, she commented, she said for her it was divorce, having to go through a divorce. She says that I'm handling it through prayer and by allowing myself to go through all the good times and bad times. And embracing it day by day. It's not easy, but it's getting better. And I don't know, how about you? What have you gone through? What is the type of loss that you've gone through that it's not necessarily a death, but that, it was painful and it took some healing and it took some recovery time, it took some grief, some grieving. I can definitely relate to that comment that Christy said, losing your partner, losing your significant other. That's painful. That can literally flip your world upside down if you're not prepared for it, if it comes to you at a surprise, if it's not mutual, if it's just kind of like one-sided. And especially here's the real deal right here, is that when you lose, or when your sense of self is tied to that thing that you're about to lose, you know what I mean? Like if your sense of self, your identity comes from a job, for example, losing that job will be detrimental for you. It will be a slap in the face. It will flip your world upside down. Not only that, but the uncertainty that's going to come as a result, because, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? And, but it's really more of the who am I now that I don't have this job? And I can totally relate with that question of losing your significant other and saying, who am I? Why? Because my sense of self, I had put my sense of self in the life that I had created with that someone. And to have it gone, when that something or someone is gone, then so are you, And so that's the difficult part is yes, the loss in and of itself is difficult. I completely know that for a fact. The loss is difficult. But it's the loss of self, the loss of your sense of self, and then having to regain it. That's the real difficult part. For example, I had a friend that lost an aunt. And she was completely destroyed by this death. She lost the aunt to death. But it wasn't so much that she lost the aunt. It's the loss within herself that happened, because that aunt particularly was really more like a mom for her. It represented the role of mom. And so it wasn't the fact that the aunt left, it's that there was a loss of identity there. Because she identified with that aunt as a mom. And so she lost mom. She lost the role of mom in her life. And so that was what was really difficult for her. And oftentimes what we're really, really grieving, what we're really, really destroyed by is the loss of our sense of self. The loss of our own identity as a result of losing that something or that someone. So I don't know what your experiences have been in terms of losing something that is not just death. It could be maybe you lost a car. Maybe a car was really important for you. Maybe you lost an opportunity, a business opportunity. I know for the most part, I think most people would probably relate to losing someone. I think there's a quote that says that losing someone because they died is one thing, but then losing someone and then they're still alive and that you still have to kind of see them, which one hurts more or something along those lines. But the truth is, pain is pain. We can't compare one circumstance to another one. You could say like, sure, so you lost your wife, but I lost my dad. Well, you couldn't say that one's worse than the other, because to each person, depending on how identify or how attached they were or how much of their sense of self came from dad or from the wife the impact's really the same. That they're going to grieve just the same, not necessarily in the same order or go through the same process, but pain is pain, man, and it hurts. So what about y'all? Anybody here want to share? Let's see what we have here. What have you experienced? What have you lost that wasn't just death related, that just really caused a lot of pain for you or was difficult? Share in the comments, Another thing is that I try to do like a flow chart, like going through the process of loss. And at what point, Coco, my friend just lost her 2 sons. But was it to death, or what was it for? Was it they left, dad took them, they went into the foster care system, or was it death? Can you clarify a little bit for that, Coco? Thank you for sharing. So yeah, to death. Oh, wow, that's gotta be tough. I can't even imagine. My condolences to her, and I wish her peace. Or if it's a he, I wish him peace. Thank you for sharing. Ida. So, loss of a relationship sent me into a deep depression and relapse. Back then, I could not see a light or a reason to stay sober. I lost myself in that relationship, and I stopped taking care of myself. I can imagine, Coco. I could imagine that she is. Maybe you should send her this video, tag her, share it with her. Hopefully, she can connect with something here, and maybe something could be helpful for her. And Ida, wow, you're so right. Sometimes we don't see the light. We don't know where else to do. We don't have any other way to cope, that we kind of, like you said, we relapse. In your case, I know what you mean, but we may relapse and we may fall into unhealthy habits, that are going to keep us in more of a depression in your case. So you're so right. Let's see, Moni. Let's see, Moni was sharing some stuff. So Moni says, lost self-identity because of a toxic, controlling relationship, but I handled it by walking away and doing what I love, what makes me happy. So true, Moni. That's so true. Way to go. Way to find an outlet, a healthy outlet. So congratulations, and thank you for sharing. There was, again, like I was saying, I was kind of putting some stuff to get, like, I was just jotting down like a flow chart of like the flow of loss and grief. And I was trying to figure out, where do we really experience the pain of losing something? Where is it that we really experience it? And I kind of wrote down, I don't know if I have it here. I may have to go by memory on this one. But I basically used the example of a job. So let's say you choose to leave your job because maybe you got a better opportunity, or maybe the environment was no longer healthy for you. It just was no longer serving you, and it's time to move on, right? So you found a job, and you left the job on your own choosing. So technically or theoretically, you lost that job, but it was your choice. So the pain comes when we lose the job, and it wasn't our choice. When we feel that we had no choice in the matter, and how we lost that, and the reason why we lost that job. It was unexpected. We were fired. We were let go. We were asked to resign. So either scenario, the end result is the same. You're losing the job. You're no longer there. One of them was by choice. I don't think anybody experiences pain there, because it was your choice. You felt like you were in control. But what about when you're fired, or when you're let go, and you're caught by surprise? You feel like you had no choice in the matter. Well, I gotta say that's not necessarily true. There may be situations where that is true, but if we were to retrace our steps back, part of owning and stepping into being responsible for our life, because we're completely responsible for our life, we're creating our life as we go, is to find the choices that we've made that led to being let go. Maybe you weren't getting there on time. There was issues with that. Maybe you weren't performing completely at 100%. There was something, you know? And so if we look back, yeah, we did make a choice that led to being let go. So if at one point choosing to leave the job on my own free will, bad, it doesn't really hurt. There's really no pain. But when we're let go, when we're fired, and we feel that it wasn't our choice, one thing we can do is to look back and find the choices that we made that led to the firing. Same with the relationship. You know, when I was going through my process, when I was losing my wife, you know, at the time, I had to, once I went through all the anger and the resistance and the denial and the sadness and all the stages of grief, and once I got to the point where I said, man, I don't know who I am. And when I decided to step into responsibility and say, okay, what's my part here? What did I do? You know, this isn't just her, or it isn't just me. There's two of us here. So I had to go back and find where was the choices that I made that led to that result. And there's something empowering about that. I don't care how difficult it is. And I admit it was difficult. But if we can step into responsibility and own up and find our choices and say, this is my part. This is the role I play in this situation. And it's not about blaming anybody. Finding your choices and being responsible for your part does not blame you. And consequentially, finding what they did doesn't necessarily blame them. It's about understanding what happened. It's about learning it, using it as a teachable moment, and using it for our growth so that we don't do that again, so that we can be a better person. Okay? So that's kind of what I wanted to share. I wanted to share that loss isn't just death. There's more. There's other losses that we experience that have just as much of a painful experience or the same impact, that it isn't just death. And so when we lose something or someone, like the post that I put, something of value to us or someone of value to us, you know, it's to look at how our sense of self is also getting lost in the process. So yes, although I'm just going to reiterate, although we are mourning or we're grieving the actual person or the actual thing that we lost, but the pain really comes from feeling or experiencing the loss of self. Maybe like I said, I was too identified with that thing. I was too attached to that thing or to that someone. My identity came from the life that I created with that someone, and now the norm that I created is falling apart. Because again, we have to think about the uncertainty that comes as a result of the loss, but more importantly, again, looking at the loss of our sense of self, the loss of identity in the process. And so when we're trying to heal, when we're looking for, our coping and healing and feeling better, that's where I would go. I would go to figuring out who you are now. Who is this version of you without this someone or this something? For example, when I quit dance in 2014. I would say I didn't quit it completely. I just kind of like backed away from the professional side of it. That was really scary. That was another loss for me. But luckily, I had gone through a very painful one a few years back that it was easier this time to go through that. And I got to be honest with you, I spent like maybe 30 minutes to a couple hours, maybe an hour, 30 minutes to an hour where I was sick to my stomach. I wanted to throw up. And I mean, it was just really scary because I didn't know who Angel was going to be. My identity was going to be without dance. But again, if I don't experience what's on the other side of that fear, of that uncertainty, of that change, then I don't get to experience the wholeness of me. I'm always experiencing a limited self. So the good thing about being willing to go through it is that you get to discover more of you, your potential. And so that's what I kind of wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, put it on the post. Let's talk about it. I'll comment on it. If you like it, share it with some friends. And if you want to private message me because you don't want to talk in public, that's fine too. Private message me. Remember that I also have my podcast. So if you have a question and you're really going through something, ask me the question. I will not release who you are. I make it very general because I want everybody to listen to it and to benefit from it. If you've never heard my podcast before, it's on iTunes and it's also on SoundCloud. It's called Dear Angel. And the way I make it is kind of like, you get to ask me. It's kind of like Dear Abby. So you get to ask me a question. I get to give you my perspective on it. I often bring in a famous quote, I would say, that kind of is relevant to what we're talking about. And then we discuss how that applies. And at the end of the podcast, I put an inspirational song that has to deal with what we're talking about. Because I love music. You can hear the music going right now in the background. You're welcome, Money. No problem. So again, thank you so much for spending some time with me this Thursday afternoon. And I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.